When you make a film, there's an ideal audience for it, and there's an ideal place to show it. And I think those two things are fused tonight at the Apollo Theater.
We all feel like we've been sort of waiting for this moment ever since we made this film, to be able to bring it back here to Harlem, the home of James Baldwin, and really the home of this story.
When I first came to New York, I would walk by the Apollo in amazement. So to be here today with New York Film Festival, and if Beale Street could talk, doing a work by James Baldwin, Barry, it's like all my dreams just...
There's a very specific thing that just happens in New York Film Festival. There's room for every story here. There's room for every color, every theme, every emotion. It's in a spectacular city because of that.
And just driving up and seeing the marquee and in big letters, if Beale Street could talk, you feel like you're truly a part of history. You recognize it in this moment, that this is a historic moment.
Anything that Barry Jenkins is gonna do, I'm interested in.
Barry is the epitome of grace, intelligence.
He just has such a powerful sensitivity and attentiveness.
Oh, he's so calm. He's like cool as a cucumber. He brings directing into his heart, and you can see that that is his art, that is his craft.
He's a guy that, even though he's dealing with a very specific and difficult topic, he made sure we always knew we were talking about love.
The film is based in the 1970s, but the themes are still so relevant today for what it's like to be a black man in America, what it's like to be colored people in America, and what it's like to be women.
To sit with an audience and sit with all these people who, we want to know what their reactions are. I hope they love it as much as we love making it.
I want to thank everybody at Annapurna for helping to make this possible, and Camilla and Janelle and everybody here at the Apollo as well. They've been a joy to work with. When we started talking about doing this back in April, and the possibility of doing this came up, I thought, do we really get to go to the Apollo? I mean, when we saw the movie and we loved it, and then we got closer to the idea of doing it, it just seemed like a dream come true, because this is hallowed ground, man. I mean, I'm hallowed ground, rather, I'm standing on, and so I'm very honored to be here, and of course, where else could we do it? James Baldwin was born in Harlem Hospital, not too far away. James Baldwin Place is on 128th and 5th. And this is a Harlem film based on the work of a Harlem writer. And of course, we're going to do it here at the Apollo. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome the director of If Beale Street Could Talk to introduce his film, Barry Jenkins.
Hey, how y'all doing? Thank you very much. I have always wanted to be on stage at the Apollo. No, I'm serious, bro. I thought I'd be dressed as Sandman, but I'm here, apparently. Y'all thought we was gonna start on time? I'm getting my little 30 seconds of stand-up out the way. Before we begin, we have so many cast members here, and our location scout is sitting right there. Hot damn. I wanted to take a moment to thank Kent and New York Film Festival for allowing us to do this. James Baldwin was born and raised in Harlem. This book is set in Harlem. It was filmed in Harlem. The first time it shows in the U.S. had to be in damn Harlem. So thank you very much. And I gotta say, thank you to the New York Film Festival. Thank you to all the volunteers. I work at a film festival. I know how hard the volunteers work. A round of applause for those folks, please. And we have so many of our crew and extended family here. I'm going to embarrass a few of them. There's too many to name. Can y'all just stand up and just please receive some love? If you worked on this film, please stand up. Come on, bruh. Hey, what's up, man? It's also just to illustrate that Barry Jenkins and all his white film school friends make these black-ass movies. All right, we're going to kick it off. We got so many cast members here. It takes a village to raise a child, and here's the village of If Beale Street Could Talk. Please give a warm welcome to Marsha Jean Kurtz, Dominique Thorne, Ebony Obsidian, Finn Wit Rock, Ed Scrine, Diego Luna, Emily Rios, my dear Anjanou Ellis, Bryan Tyree Henry, and Tiana's taking his spot. Tiana Paris, Coleman Domingo, Stephan James, introducing Kiki Layne, and McQueen Regina King. Come on here. In addition to all these, in addition to all these special folks, we also have the Baldwin family is here with us. And yes, and before we begin, I could speak on their behalf, but no one can speak on Baldwin like a Baldwin. So we wanted to bring out some of the family members to say a few words before we bless this theater and kick off this screening. So please give a warm welcome to Kareem and Aisha Khalifa Smart, Clarence Harris, and Trevor Baldwin.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My Baldwin family, what's up? Y'all better make a little more noise. There are many similar themes throughout Uncle Jimmy's body of work. In the short story, Sonny's Blues, he wrote, all they really knew were two darknesses, the darkness of their lives, which was now closing in on them, and the darkness of the movies, which had blinded them to that other darkness. As we gather this evening to witness the product of Uncle Jimmy's words from yesterday, through the lens of Barry today, with an amazing cast of tomorrows, together creating a contemporary period piece that touches the soul. There is no darkness because the lights are bright on Beale Street. And just like childhood, when the street lights come on, y'all know y'all gotta be home. So this evening, we're all home at the Apollo. Thank you very much, my cousin.
And with that being said, I'd like to acknowledge the spirits of Jimmy Baldwin in the room, his mother, Burtis Baldwin, his brother, George Baldwin, David Baldwin, and Wilma Baldwin. Present in the audience, his sister, Paula Whaley, his sister, Elizabeth Dingle, home resting, his sister, Gloria Khalifa Smart, and his sister, Barbara Jameson. Thank you all for coming. We show our gratitude, and we hope you enjoy the film.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, I would like to ask my beautiful family to please stand up and be acknowledged. Stand up, don't be shy, don't be shy. Yes.
My name is Aisha. My mom is Gloria Khalifa Smart, the executor of the estate. And I'd like to acknowledge her along with Eileen Ahern, her #1 go-to person who handles a lot of the issues for her. I have a cute story. About 8 years ago, maybe 10, I'm not sure, Barry will know. But I came home from a trip and my mom handed me this DVD. And she said, you gotta watch this. I just got it from this young filmmaker who's interested in doing If Beale Street Could Talk. She said the film is called Medicine for Melancholy. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. So we sat and we watched it together, and it was amazing. And I was introduced to the character Micah and Joanne, and it was a quirky, funny, Black love story. And, I just said to myself, good luck to him, getting the okay, because my mom is like Tina Knowles. No. She says no to everyone. So I'm just happy that this happened. The story is a revolutionary story about black love. The act of loving while black is a revolutionary act. It's an act of resistance. It's an act of resistance to love under the conditions with which we live, to raise children, to maintain family, and just continue the resistance and stay strong. Thank you all for making this film.
And with that, we will ask you to turn your cell phones off. Now that you took all those photos, any fax machines you got, turn all that shit off and sit back and enjoy the show. There'll be a Q&A afterwards. Much love to y'all. Please enjoy.
Can you talk about how long it took you to bring this novel to the screen and what it was like adapting James Baldwin?
Yeah, it was kind of like this moment in my life that I look back on quite fondly now that we have a Best Picture and the movie that just screened here that came out of this period. But in the summer of 2013, I was kind of like broke and tired and just over everything. And so Adela Romansky got $8,000 together and sent me off to Europe. And I bought a round-trip ticket to Brussels. With no plans. I had an Airbnb for 10 days in Brussels, and I wrote the screenplay for Moonlight in those 10 days, and then I took a train to Berlin and adapted this novel into a script. Did not have the rights to this novel, but I got them now. And yeah, it was the kind of the two pieces went hand in hand. And so as we started to develop both Moonlight and Beale Street, we started working on gathering the rights from the estate, by which I should say we started building a relationship with the James Baldwin estate. And as we made Moonlight, the relationship just grew and fostered. And ultimately, that's why I love when the Baldwin clan gave the intro, nobody said Moonlight, they all said Medicine for Melancholy, because they saw the first film, and before we even finished Moonlight, they just knew that we were going to go down the road together. So it was a process that all began in these 6 weeks in Europe in 2013.
What was the tone that you wanted to set with the novel? The movie has such a particularly graceful tone, and just talk about that.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Moonlight has all these visual inspirations taken from like Asian art house cinema, like Wong Kar-wai, Ho Xiao-shen, and then a little bit of yes, clap it up for those folks.
Yeah, there you go.
and then a little bit of Claire Denis. But with this film, it was much more about the syntax of the way Baldwin writes. You know, I like to say that the duality of this novel was that it's like this really lush romance, but Baldwin uses the same sort of sentence aggression to address the systemic oppression. And so I think to me, the pairing of those two things was all the inspiration that James and I needed. And so we started looking at still photographers. I'm pointing at James now, who's sitting behind White, sitting in that, which is so crazy. And so we were looking at Roy Decarava, Gordon Parks, and listening to a lot of jazz. And that was like enough to give us the language for the film.
Yeah. Maybe we want to start passing the microphone down the line so that cast members can comment on the experience of the vibe on this shoot.
Yeah, we're just going to make this a free-for-all, kind of like a buffet of a Q&A, because there's too damn many of us up here.
Yeah,
but before we do that, I was thinking of something backstage, and I wanted to make sure I got it in front of a public audience. There were 3 men, not including you, Kent, because you were not in the film.
Right.
There were 3 men up here who are not black, who are actors that are in this film. And we often talk about allies. And I think when you think about allies are like, when you raise your voice, I will amplify it. I will help you shout out. And I think in this film, I saw a different kind of ally, by which I say the third act of this film involves scene work from all 3 of these non-black men who are up on stage. And those scenes are so damn beautiful, but they're not us. And as the film started to coalesce, I had to have a conversation with each of those men to say this really beautiful scene you put your heart into is not going to ultimately end up in the film. And to a man, all 3 of them said, that's all good, bruh. It's not about me, it's about the film. So thank y'all for being like the most solid ass allies, bro. And now y'all can talk on it.
Yeah.
Brian, how was it to be in this film?
I knew you were gonna do that. And I was like, who gave me this mic? Why did they do this? What am I supposed to talk about?
About the mood on the set, working with Barry, bringing this movie alive.
For me, one, it was one of the most gratifying experiences because I live in Harlem. 6 blocks away from here. This is actually my first time in the Apollo. I'm so ashamed, but I'm so grateful. So grateful at the same time for it to be this reason. Tiana's my neighbor, by the way, so don't forget that. But it was great because we were filming right around here, and when Barry gave me the call to do this scene, I was very, it was kind of an out-of-body experience because I couldn't believe it. You know, because James Baldwin just means so much to me. Like, I still carry a copy of A Fire Next Time in my backpack everywhere I go, just to make sure to be ready for what's going on. And so, like, when I got to do this scene with Steph here, I don't know, I'm still shocked about how it came out because I literally do not remember the cameras being anywhere in this room. I don't remember, it was just a scene between us just like talking about what this sorrow is that we carry and what this heaviness is that we carry and this weight that we carry as black people, and not only just black people, but people in the system and at this time in the world. But it was so gratifying to know that I was amongst my peers. Like, most of these people up here I've known for years, like for years, and it just was something that I knew was very special, something that I knew that needed to be said and needed to be done. I knew that it was a place in history and time that we were about to see black love in a way that you have never seen it before. Like, I think about my younger self, like looking at movies and knowing that I've never seen an experience of black love like this ever on screen. And it just is a humbling experience because it helps me realize why I'm amongst this number and how far we have to go, how much we can do. And I'm looking in this audience now and seeing my peers and seeing just the mixture of colors and races and sexes, and we're in the Apollo Theater celebrating this amazing man, this humanitarian, this activist, this human being, James Baldwin. And it just was, it was a no-brainer to be a part of it. So, also, did I mention that we filmed it in my neighborhood? Like, it was kind of weird because I was like, Barry, if you pan that camera 3 feet to the right, there's a Whole Foods on 125th and Lenox, I don't know if you know. And I was like, that's a whole nother discussion. But it was really beautiful and really great. And I just like, I cannot, like, you believe in something when you watch Barry's work. Like, I don't know if you praise Allah or Buddha or Jesus, Jehovah Jeru, whatever, but like, there is a holiness in Barry's work, and I feel like there's a reason we were all brought together. Plus, I was willing to pay any amount of money to work with Regina King. Like, I was like, I'll bribe anybody in the business if I just get like 2 seconds to touch the hem of her garment. So I was really grateful to be a part of it. And yeah, I mean, it's just something that I think is timeless, timely, and necessary. So I had no choice but to say yes.
Y'all just jump in. You got a mic, speak into it.
You passed.
Ed Scrine, what was it like being in this film, bro? Actually, I'm very curious to hear what you got to say. This is the sweetest man in the world, and yet,
it was dark, you know. It was the duality was crazy because it was so beautiful and such an honor and so humbling to work with a hero of mine, or from text from a hero of mine. And the text was so rich from Barry alone that when you add to that, you know, everything that James wrote about Officer Bell, and you know what James could write in 1 sentence is what the rest of us mere mortals write in 100. And he would write about just the sexual threat of Officer Bell licking his bottom lip, and how he would look at Fonny, and you know, there was so much there. So it was the easiest job to prepare for ever. Even though I had one scene, the easiest job ever, and the hardest fucking scene to do, because it was dark side. You know, I love the light. I'm out here trying to find balance and love, believe it or not. And yeah, it got dark on set, man. I mean, it was 2 in the morning. But nah, it was dark side. But you know, we finished, and I felt like I had a real responsibility, and you know, someone had to represent that darkness, that bigotry, that ignorance, that racism, and that divisiveness, that destructiveness. And it's against everything in my DNA, but it was important to me to represent it, man. And it's an honor to be up here with you lot. And it's all peace and love now, though.
Yeah, now.
Barry, what were the particular qualities that you were looking for in casting Tish and Lonnie?
I mean, we were trying to just build a family. You know, with Moonlight, we were trying to find these 3 guys who could all feel like they had the same soul. With this film, it was about building souls that felt like they would nurture the birth and the fruition of these 2 folks. So once we hit on Stephan and Kiki, it was about who was the mother and father of Kiki Layne. You know, it's got to be Coleman Domingo and Regina King. You know, and then with this guy's family, it was about who is talented enough to, because how could you not want to love this young man? And so we had to find people who had, as Ed said, this duality. Shut up, man. We had to find people who had this duality within them. And so it was about building these circles around them. With Kiki, you know, I like to say casting to me is a meritocracy. You know, when I write a script, I don't see the actor in my head. And I'm hoping somebody will walk in the door and show me who the actor is. And Trevante Rhodes in Moonlight was like the perfect example of that. Never in a million years would have thought that guy was going to end up being the main character in my film. And in this movie, I feel like the character of Tish had to have this innocence, this pureness, this naivete, but at the same time, because she's speaking the voiceover, be able to speak with reflection, you know, and that she's learned and grown and evolved based on the things that we're seeing play out in the present tense. And so when Kiki sent in her tape, I feel like she had that presence within her that she could be both just experiencing everything for the first time, and then on a moment's notice be like, I have experienced this way too many times. I'm done with this shit. And so once we like saw her tape and brought her in and read her with Stephan, who does not look like the way Fonnie is described in the book. I apologize, Mr. Baldwin. However, he showed up and he just like killed the audition. There's this dynamic of colorism in the novel where all of Fonnie's family is very light-skinned, and it's just probably like the first time in the history of histories that a character was written light-skinned and we cast him dark-skinned. But I just felt this thing in his eyes, the soul, because most of your performance is through glass, and I think for the audience to connect through the lens, through the glass, and to the actor, to the soul, you had to have somebody who just had this very piercing quality in their eyes, and that was Stephan James. So once I saw them, it was like, it was easy. You know?
You want to pass the microphone down to Stephan? And
I have it already.
You have a microphone. There you go. Okay. Yeah. What was your what's your take on making this movie? Your experience of making the film working?
I mean, what can I say? I'm just, even now, I'm so humbled to be on this stage with all these incredible faces. You know, an opportunity to work with Barry Jenkins, who I've been a fan of, you know, since I saw Moonlight, and then went back and watched Medicine, and then, you know, I had this strange feeling that I was going to work with him at some point. And I didn't know when it was going to be. I certainly didn't know it was going to be his follow-up to Moonlight. And, you know, to have this sort of thing fall into my lap like this, you know, it's just an incredible, incredible thing. And the marriage of a James Baldwin and a Barry Jenkins, and the opportunity to work with Regina King again, you know, who I've worked with now twice, and Coleman twice now. These guys were already my family before, so, you know, to come into a situation like this, it was a no-brainer for me. And, you know, the work that Baldwin has already put on the page for us just made it so easy to transition into a situation like this. And what can I say? I'm just so grateful to have had Kiki Layne as my scene partner for all those moments. You were so incredible. You displayed so much strength. And you really put this film on your back, so congratulations. I'm proud of you.
I just want to say I played the Italian lady who hopes to save them, and it was a very strange experience. I was scared to death of him. I mean, really scared.
Good.
and it was hard to go up after him. But it was very interesting. I was reading the article in Times Magazine about Barry, and he was talking about how an actor just at some point the soul comes out and you see it. And it was like, I was like, oh, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I get this moment? And all of a sudden, it just came. It was partially Barry just coming and talking to me, coming and talking to me. And I thought, what is he talking about? And then I hit something at the end, and he came and hugged me. And when I read that Times article, I realized that was he was talking about, when the soul comes out, just comes out, and he gets it out of you. That's all I have to say.
Barry, can you talk about the world that you created visually with your production designer, Mark Friedberg, and with your costume design? You really did what you were going for there.
Yeah, I mean, just like with the visuals, a lot of that came directly from Baldwin. He's very detailed in this book. When the Hunt sisters walks in, I think he says Adrian is dressed too young and Sheila is dressed too old or something like that, and he describes the way the hair looks and like the texture of the dresses. I mean, it was all of us taking our cues from Baldwin, but I'm glad you pointed out Mr. Friedberg, who is right here in my eyeline, Mr. Friedberg, because Mark Friedberg, a round of applause for this dude, my production designer. So I was in New York on Father's Day for literally 18 hours. We were meeting somebody else, Adela and myself. And this dude, it was on Father's Day. This guy has kids who he loves and who loves him. But he ran out of his own Father's Day celebration to come and sit with me, to corner me in the hotel bar. And we sit down and he plops down his copy of the novel If Beale Street Could Talk. And he just starts flipping through it. And he's like, and this, and this, and that, and that. And it's really difficult making a period piece, especially for somebody who's never made a movie that has a budget of more than $1 million. But Mark said, the most important thing to me is the patina. And so the film you just watched, there are no actual freestanding locations. The Rivers home is a brownstone that was gutted and about to be flipped, gentrification. And Mark is so damn smart, he was like, bruh, hold off on this. Let me get in here. Let me gut the place for you. Build it to this James Baldwin novel, and then when you sell it, you can say, this James Baldwin movie was made in your house. And so we got the damn house. And in the apartment that Fonnie has, the Bank Street flat, is also on a stage, but it's built to code. And my favorite story to tell about this movie, Mark, is Mark Friedberg brought this draftsman out of retirement. If you see the scene where Bryan and Stephan are sitting by the table that is also the bathtub with a piece of wood on the top of it, as the camera pans back and forth, there's this crack that goes from the floor to the ceiling because it's a basement apartment. Even though we're on a soundstage, Mark felt like it was so important to have that crack, to have that age in the set, that he brought this guy out of retirement to painstakingly build this thing to the point that we ended up making it the last day of production, but still, we did it. So everybody from Carolyn Estlin, our costume person, to Mark Friedberg, they just really cared about honoring the text and getting it right. So I'm glad you pointed them out, because much love to y'all.
I think the warmth of the color and then the tone of the music actually go hand in hand. The music is absolutely magnificent, just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, James Laxton and Nick Bertel, the cinematographer and the composer from Moonlight, were back for this film, and it was kind of the same thing. We took our cues from Baldwin. There's a duality in this book where there's this very lush romance, but there's also what I call one of Baldwin's angrier protest novels. And we didn't want the anger of the protest to overwhelm the idea of these two people being so deeply in love, so enwrapped with one another. So we leaned into the bright colors, the very soft visuals. And one of the cool things of working with Nick is Nick doesn't mind showing me how the sausage is made. And so he writes to the script. And so the first cues that we got for the film arrived before we even started putting the movie together. And there was one cue, I think, which cue was the first one that we hit on, Nick? It might have been the opening scene that we hit on, but it was played on brass. And so we started composing the movie for brass, for trumpet, saxophone, but then we realized it was a little too obvious. And so we started composing for brass, but playing it with cello. And by the end of the film, and the cello was played by his wife, Caitlin Sullivan, but by the end of the film, the brass then starts playing compositions made for cello, so that it's not jazz, it's if Beale Street could talk in a certain way. And both those dudes, man, I mean, hopefully y'all will work with me again. That was a light laugh, James. The audience says yes. But no, they were dope, yeah.
We got the high five from backstage, but I want to thank everybody on this stage for bringing this movie here. You're magnificent. Thank you. Thanks, Barry.
Thank y'all for coming out.